It's summer 1987 when a group of backpackers decides to head into the woods and ends up finding something they were never meant to see. The group of three sets out on a hike in the Arapaho National Forest, nestled deep in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. They begin their journey in a relatively open area, but as they continue deeper into the forest, they find themselves surrounded by breathtaking views in every direction. Fascinated by the beauty around them, they start to wonder how many hidden spots might still be out there, places that are untouched and unexplored. So, driven by curiosity, they decide to hike even further, pushing into the much denser, less traveled areas of the forest. As they moved along, at this point they are deep into the forest, one of the backpackers, who has gone a little ahead of the others, suddenly stops. He takes a deep breath, looking around and quietly appreciating the wild, untouched surroundings, but then something unusual catches his eye just off the trail, tucked between some trees, and it's this strange black plastic-like material scattered across the ground with these black ropes or cords hanging from the tree branches all around. Now, there's no doubt about it, this looks far more man-made than natural. Alarmed and confused, he quickly turns and calls out to the others. Hearing his voice, assuming it must be another stunning viewpoint he's found, the two backpackers, who are a short distance behind, hurried over. But instead of a natural view, what they find is something entirely different. It looks completely out of place compared to the greenery and trees that surround it. As the group stands there staring at this strange discovery and wondering what it could be, one of them glances beneath the black ropes that seem to be hanging or tied to the tree branches. He leans in for a better look, and then it clicks. At first, it seems completely unnatural, like it can't possibly be what he thinks it is, but the more he stares, the more certain he gets. It's real, it has to be, there's no way someone faked this. He quickly points it out to the other backpackers, who not only recognize it instantly, but also spot another one just off to the side. Now, with that sudden realization, the group starts backing off. They don't say a word, they just turn and run straight out of the forest, fast. You see, 3 years earlier, on August 10th, 1984, a 38-year-old man named James Cadell was sitting down on a sofa in his home in a small town in Colorado. As he sits there, he glances at his watch, but almost at the same moment, there's a knock at the door. He stands up, walks over, and opens it. Standing there is his friend, a 36-year-old man named Ronald Wilmont. The two exchange casual greetings, and James invites Ronald inside, but the two friends don't plan to stay long. They had already made plans to take a short trip from Grant County to Broomfield, Colorado. From what we can tell, the trip doesn't appear to be work-related or particularly serious. It seems more like a helicopter sightseeing flight over the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, meant to enjoy the stunning views offered by the mountains, forests, and lakes. James, a pilot, owns a small aircraft, a Cessna L-19 Bird Dog, which is the same plane they will be using for this trip. Now that Ronald is inside the house, James goes to fetch his VHS camcorder to make sure he captures the views on tape as well. When he returns, they head out of the house and make their way to Grant County Airport. Once they arrive, they prep the aircraft. James mounts the VHS camcorder inside the plane, positioning it where he thinks it will capture the best shots. Satisfied, he starts up the engine. They move the plane into position and take off. Soon, these spectacular views begin to unfold, stretching endlessly across the forested landscape. Everything is perfect. As the two friends enjoy the views, while this is happening, something also begins to unfold a short distance ahead of where James and Ronald's plane is flying. Not very far, but just far enough that James and Ronald can't see it. As the plane moves forward, drawing closer and closer to this thing, it becomes abundantly clear that this thing, whatever it is, it's heading straight toward their plane. It doesn't try to move or change direction, it's just coming straight at James and Ronald, completely unfazed. But for some reason, the two friends don't try to move either to make path for it or do anything at all to avoid a collision. In fact, they don't even mention it. It's as if both sides are dead set on crashing into one another, or perhaps waiting to see who will blink first and veer off course. But unfortunately, James and Ronald don't yet know that their lives are about to change forever. As the two sides draw closer and closer without either backing down, neither James nor this thing, James suddenly gets a better view of how gigantic this thing is. Upon realizing this, he quickly tries to turn the plane to the right to avoid a collision, because clearly they are vastly outsized. But to the right, more of these identical things are already rising up, blocking his way. He glances to the left, they are there too. They've now sort of formed this upside down U-shaped wall, trapping the plane in. So in a moment of desperation, trying to escape these things, James decides to try something he knows is nearly impossible with the kind of aircraft he's flying. But like, what other choice does he have? He is going to attempt a full turnback, a U-turn in mid-air. But as he makes his move, he loses control of the aircraft and crashes into the forest below, killing both James and Ronald instantly. The two friends never reached their intended destination. James' last words are, "Damn, hang on, Ronnie."
Damn, hang on, Ronnie!
After a couple of days, the two friends will be reported missing, and a search party will be dispatched to look for them all over Colorado, including in the Rocky Mountains, but the search efforts will be fruitless. After several days of combing the area with no success, the search will be called off. For 3 whole years, the whereabouts of James, Ronald, and the aircraft remain a complete mystery. But on August 23rd, 1987, a group of backpackers, yes, the same group I mentioned earlier at the beginning of this video, decides to explore the Rocky Mountains, the very same area James and Ronald had flown over. Their hike starts off pretty well, with stunning views all around them. Then they decide to head deeper into the Arapaho National Forest, hoping to discover some of the more remote, unexplored areas. As they are walking along, one of the backpackers drifts ahead of the group. He eventually comes to a stop, takes a deep breath, and looks around the forest as if scanning the area. That's when something catches his eye. This black plastic-like material scattered across the ground, with these black ropes or cords hanging from the tree branches. Well, that black thing that catches the backpacker's attention is actually James' camcorder, now broken into pieces and scattered across the ground. And those ropes or cord-like things hanging from the branches, those are James' VHS cassette tapes, which when the plane crashed, somehow ended up tangled in the trees. The backpacker will quickly call out to the others, "Hey, come check this out." As the rest of the group gathers, one of them notices something underneath the tangle of tape and branches. Then after taking a closer look, it suddenly clicks what it is. It was a body. Even though it seems unreal at first, because what are the odds of stumbling upon a dead body? I mean, even if it is some kind of horrible prank, who pulls something like this in the middle of the forest? Not to mention, this is such a remote part of the woods, there's barely anyone out here. But at the same time, he realizes it's far too real to be fake. And it is James' body, still lodged into the now wrecked upside-down aircraft. When he points it out to the other backpackers, they not only recognize the body immediately, but also spot another body, Ronald's. Once they realize they've just discovered human remains, the group wants to get the hell out of there, and that's exactly what they do. They turn around and get out of the forest as fast as they can. Once they are out of the forest, they report what they found to the local sheriff's department, which launches a recovery mission. James and Ronald's remains are recovered, along with the broken camcorder and damaged VHS tapes. The tapes are later reconstructed, and the footage will be successfully extracted, revealing James and Ronald's final moments, finally showing what really happened that day and what led to the crash. It turns out that as James and Ronald are flying over the Rockies, the Rocky Mountains, and as they reach the Arapaho Forest area, they've been looking down the whole time, taking in the views, with James even commenting on how beautiful the lake looked. So that thing that was unfolding far off in the distance earlier, that was the terrain steadily rising. It was turning into a massive mountain, and they didn't see it because their heads were still tilted downward, focused on the views below. As the plane keeps moving forward, the ground continues to rise, eventually forming a gigantic mountain that almost seems to block out the sky. James then lifts his head only to see it now directly in front of them. He glances to the left, more steep ground has already risen into additional peaks. He looks to the right, same thing, the ground is rising all around them, and he realizes they don't have enough time or altitude to climb over it. So he attempts to turn the plane around, a full U-turn, which is extremely risky, not just because of the short distance he has, but also because of the type of aircraft he's flying, the Cessna L-19 Bird Dog, which is not built for tight low-speed maneuvering in confined terrain. Unlike helicopters, it can't simply turn within a narrow space, but he tries it anyway. In doing so, he loses control and the plane crashes, ending both their lives.
Damn, hang on, Ronnie!
This has been a long journey, like researching, putting it all together, and now finally my first video is out. Honestly, it brought up a lot of emotions. I had many thoughts, doubts, and moments of second guessing, but I'll definitely be doing more stories, hopefully on a weekly basis. So thank you for watching. See you next time.